Hi, my name is Adam Carlson. I'm a healthcare equity research analyst here at ABG, and it's my pleasure to introduce the next speaker, which is Torbjörn Bjerke, chairman of the board at SynAct. SynAct is a Swedish-listed company, currently on Spotlight, but due to move up to the Nasdaq main market in the near future, market cap around 3.5 billion Swedish. SynAct is a front runner within the novel field of resolution therapy, and it has just last week read out top-line results from its phase 2A study with its lead asset AP1189 in rheumatoid arthritis. Torbjörn, I'll hand over the word to you.
Thank you very much, Adam, and thank you very much for us having this opportunity to present SynAct Pharma at the Investor Days at ABG. So SynAct Pharma is all about developing new treatments for inflammatory diseases, and inflammatory diseases that do have quite a significant unmet medical need. I will get into that in the presentation. I'll also get into our very new, as you said, Adam, very new phase 2A data, really showing the proof of concept of our lead compound 1189 in rheumatoid arthritis. So some of you might know SynAct Pharma today, but what we are doing is really to develop new treatments within inflammatory diseases. Our lead compound, AP1189, is a small molecule, is not taken through a tablet, through the mouth, and is taken up by the stomach and works out into the immunoactive cells that it should. I will get a bit more into that as well. We have had a fantastic year with new developments. The RA results is the second proof of concept in inflammatory diseases. The first one was in COVID-19 induced lung inflammation. What I can also tell you about on this slide here is the fact that we will have many more milestones coming in 22. So very exciting new year as well for the company. We are listed on the Spotlight stock exchange in Sweden. However, we do have the ambition to list up to Nasdaq Sweden within the first half year 22. Our market cap is about 3.3 billion Swedish kroners. We have about 11,000 shareholders. We are happy with all of them. They are very active and give us good advice during the development of the company. The ownership, management owns about 20%. We are in a voluntary lockup. As you might have seen today, we came out with a press release stating that we are prolonging that lockup until the end of June next year. So this is the pipeline, and the pipeline consists of 1189 in different indications. I'll talk about rheumatoid arthritis data today. I'll also talk about the COVID-19 induced inflammation. We call it here the virus-induced respiratory insufficiency, and I'll get a bit more back to why we're doing that. This compound, 1189, we believe is very much suited also for quite a lot of different indications now, with 2 proof of concept studies being finalized. And importantly, we have a next generation of compounds in discovery phase moving forward, and we're looking forward to talk more about that in 2022. So, what is actually 1189 and how does it work? I normally illustrate it with some fruits. This is an immune regulatory cell. It could be a T cell, for example. This cell contains some surface molecules where 1189 comes in and binds, and then it works through the cell. For example, it can limit the release of inflammatory markers that drives the inflammation. So it does that. In addition to that, this is a macrophage, a so-called cell that cleans up the mess after the inflammation. And it also works on 2 different molecules on the surface of these cells, the so-called melanocortin receptor 1 and 3. And that's important. So 2 different mode of actions. It reduces the inflammatory markers that drives the inflammation, and it also stimulates the cells that removes the debris from the inflammation, meaning that you can actually balance the immune system. And this is very important because it doesn't hit the so-called steroid receptors. So it doesn't induce immunosuppression. And this is the big problem with the treatments within rheumatoid arthritis and inflammatory diseases today, that you get infections because you decrease the whole immune system. So this is really the two distinct opportunities for mode of action that 1189 have. And it's called the inflammation resolution. It's a totally new area. And we believe that we are one of the very much leading companies within this field. So while preparing for the phase 2 data this year, we have also increased the intellectual property rights. As you know, patents are important in this industry to get exclusivity, and we have different patents being filed during the year, including so-called polymorphs of different salts of 1189. Most probably giving opportunities for very prolonged life of these patents. We predict it to be at least to 2042. And that's, of course, very important from a commercial point of view as well. So very good progress here. So let's go in and talk about rheumatoid arthritis. So the whole aim here is to develop a totally new treatment that is as effective as the so-called JAKs, but with a much better side effect profile. If you talk a little bit about rheumatoid arthritis as such, it's a quite common disease. It hits about 1% of the global population. Despite the fact that we have a lot of different treatment opportunities today, there are quite a lot of patients that do not get the response that they are hoping for. So we still have more than half of the patients not getting into remission, getting rid of the symptoms, and quite a few of the patients do get so-called flares. That's the worsening of the disease. These are often treated with steroids today with a great degree of side effects. So bottom line here is that it's a big medical need out there. And we believe 1189 could come in and fill quite a bit of that need. This slide is quite busy, sorry for that, but it shows you the different treatment opportunities we see with 1189. The red dot there is the flares. We did a market research half year ago showing that among specialists both in the US as well as in Europe, there's a big need for something else than steroids, and the fact that 1189 could fill that gap. This is opportunity around $2 billion US. The big opportunity, though, and we believe that this should be the next trial, is in so-called DMARC. That is the patient that has gone through one treatment. It could be with a TNF-alpha antibody, and have not got the desired efficacy, or it could be with methotrexate that we has tested now that do not get the good efficacy, and then add on 1189. That's a tremendous good opportunity. The whole market opportunity here is about 28 billion US dollars per year in only one indication. That's the RA indication. So a lot of different opportunities to position 1189 in the treatment paradigm of RA. So let's go in and talk a little bit more about the study that we just did. It's called The Begin because it's the beginning. And this is a study where we tested 1189 together with methotrexate in newly diagnosed severe rheumatoid arthritis patients. These are the patients that comes to the doctor. They have tried NSAIDs or here in Sweden it's called Ipren, and have not really gone through with good efficacy here, and they are really sick. So Well, we included those in the trial. So we had 3 different groups. We had the so-called placebo. They got methotrexate. That is often the first choice of treatment in these patients. And then they added placebo. Then we had 50 milligram, and then we had 100 milligram of 1189. So instead of placebo, those 2 groups got either 50 milligram or 100 milligram. We did an interim analysis and found some really exciting trends in the dose-response curve. And that gave the opportunity actually to go further on with both the 50 milligram and the 100 milligram, and of course the placebo. All in all, 105 patients in the last run, divided between those 3 groups. This is an exploratory study. So what we did, as you can see, in terms of primary and secondary endpoints, is quite a lot of different measurements here, in order to learn as much as possible about the 1189 in these patients. But the primary readout was the absolute change in clinical disease activity index, which is a very good index to see how much impact do the compound have on these patients, but also quite a lot of different secondary endpoints. I'll get back to that. So let's look at the results. The first one was the changes in clinical disease activity index, and importantly, this is a regulatory index for regulatory authorities to look at efficacy in this group of patients. So this is a common one. And as you can see here, in terms of the mean change of CDAI from baseline to week 4, and remember, this is only a 4-week study, so it's kind of the beginning of the treatment cycle of these patients. And here you can see a significant decrease in clinical disease activity score in the absolute measurements. When we looked at the patients that got from the severe to the moderate, we got a good differentiation between placebo and the active, as you can see. However, the 100 mg did not get up to the level to show significance. We're not very worried about that. We saw that the 100 mg had a bit higher disease score in terms of the CDAI, so that might be the explanation. So, but really, really exciting results on the first primary endpoint, and significant. The second one of the secondary, is the ACR. And this is a proportion of subjects that received a minimum of 20, 50, or 70% improvement in disease activity after 4 weeks of treatment then again. This is quite an important measurement also for the American authorities, FDA. And as you can see here, we have a consistent, very nice dose response. In terms of the ACR 20, that is often the primary endpoint in some of the regulatory studies with other drugs. You see 23% in placebo, 31% in 50, and up to 48% in the 100 mg. And we were very happy to see that. In terms of ACR 50, after 4 weeks, we have 18.2% in 100 mg and 9.1 in the 70 scale. So again, a very significant, good clinical outcome. To show you another one with talking about consistency between the data and the dose response, we can see the mean improvement of fatigue, the so-called FACIT score, is an important point in rheumatoid arthritis patients in terms of fatigue. It really shows the degree of disease. And here you can also see a nice dose response, although not significant. And then we had the pain. Of course, these patients are severely burdened by pain. And as you can see here, again, a very nice dose response in that. So all in all, also with the others that I will not show you today, we have the consistency in the results in terms of dose response. And importantly, talking about safety, And we believe this is a parameter that differentiates at this point of time, after 4 weeks of treatment, differentiates AP1189 from other drugs on the market, especially the JAKs or the biologics, is the safety profile. When you read through this slide, you will see a very favorable safety profile. For example, in terms of the serious adverse events, we had non-serious adverse events, and that's important in such a trial, of course. And then we looked at nausea, for example, that we have picked up that, and as you can see, it's not really different between the groups. We believe that this is due to this suspension we're using. So bottom line here is that we see so far, we see a very, very benign and good safety profile differentiating it. So in conclusion of these very important studies, we can see yes, a good efficacy endpoint, consistency between the results, which is very important in drug development in order to justify the next phase of development, and a good safety profile. So next step here is really to do a phase 2b and go to the FDA, open an IND in the US, and get a global development of 1189 within this indication. This slide just shows you what I already talked about, and that was the market research we did when we had the interim data. We found some really interesting points from this market research, also creating a good opportunity within the flares. Now we are performing a new market research both in the US as well as in Europe, based upon the data that we have just received. So that was RA. Let's go to the virus-induced respiratory insufficiency, and we have focused there on the COVID-19 inflammation. This slide shows you that it's quite a bit of the same cells in this inflammation compared to the RA and other inflammatory diseases. And the same receptors as we target on these cells. So we were thinking, if we can balance the inflammation also in this severe inflammatory disease, then we might help the patients. So when we look at the treatment paradigm today, of course, we have learned quite a bit during the last 2 years about COVID-19, especially within the last 1.5 years. We also learned that, and we're learning that every day, it's not over yet. So our way of thinking here is that if you can have a tablet that stops the inflammatory process, even if you have antiviral tablets, it would be benefit, and keep the patients out of the hospital. That's it. It's all about that. So when we did the first study, we tested this in Brazil, that, as you know, has a lot of patients, a lot of casualties in that country as well. So what we tested was 100 mg of AP1189, compare that to placebo. And we had quite severe patients coming in that needed oxygen treatment when they came to the hospital. And then we look at different parameters, as you can see. And some of the most important parameters was, okay, can we get these patients quickly back from hospital? That was one. Back home. Or the second one was the need of oxygen. Because when the patients came in, they needed oxygen in order to have a sustainable life. So yes, results quite positive actually. This slide shows you that AP1189, the treatment here, resulted in a greater proportion of patients achieving respiratory recovery at a faster pace. And that was important. As you can see here, in terms of average respiratory recovery time, we had AP1189 5.9 days, and the placebo 9.9 days. Quite meaningful differences. And then we looked at the cumulative respiratory recovery by day 4, took out day 4 and looked at that, and exactly the same pattern was that. So yes, we believe that we can damper the inflammation and make the patients in less demand for oxygen. That was important. The second question here was the discharge from hospital in order to get them faster home. So patient treated with AP1189 were discharged from hospital faster than those receiving placebo. As you can see here, if you took at day 4, about 41% of the patients had gone home, none in the placebo group. Average hospital discharge time was 7.9 in the AP1189 and 11.2 in the placebo. So this is meaningful. It spares quite a lot of money from society, and of course the patients get quicker home. And we know that this is important because of the post-COVID and the ongoing inflammation also afterwards. So faster recovery, a much better inflammation recovery is what we can see. The treatment in terms of the safety was also important here. Of course, these were quite sick patients, but we did not see any alarming side effects related to 1189. So that's also good. So in conclusion here, significant reduced time to respiratory recovery, 4 days, good safety profile. It requires a confirmatory study, we believe, in order to expand on these data. But this program is not only related to COVID-19. It's also related to other virus-induced inflammation. We know every year people die, especially elderly people and people with reduced immune system dies from influenza. Exactly the same inflammation that we can see in COVID-19. So we want to look upon more broadly on this program, and in the future we also want to do influenza-based development for 1189. So in summary, what we have shown now is 2 proof of concepts with 1189, one in COVID-19, one in RA. We're extremely excited about that. We believe that 1189, for example, in RA, after 4 weeks of treatment, can compete with some of the best drugs out there today. We don't believe that we have found the optimal efficacious dose yet, so we have something to go for here. And this was a short study. We need to do longer study. We have all the talks supporting that now. So, and with the tablets, we are ready to go on that. In addition to that, of course, SynAct Pharma develops. We want to be also on the main list in Stockholm. So we are preparing for that and hope to be able to do that in the first half of 22. And then in terms of the nephrotic syndrome, I haven't really talked about that today, but we are planning to redesign that study in order to capture more patients and to capture more opportunities within this field, because we believe that 1189 could also play a significant role in that disease. So thank you very much, Adam.
Thank you, Torbjörn, for a very interesting presentation. We don't have a lot of time for questions, but I'll ask a few short ones. So you are in conversations with potential partners. We knew that from before. The results that you've gotten now, how does that change the conversations, and how would you kind of assess the likelihood of a potential deal in the near term or long term?
It intensifies the discussions, I would say. When you look at the results here, this could become a totally new treatment option for very large indications with multiple US dollar markets, helping a lot of patients. So yes, this has been definitely intensified.
Good. And in terms of, regardless of whether there's a deal in the near term or not, what is the potential to see 1189 kind of expanded into other indications beyond RA and nephrotic syndrome and ARDS in the near term? Do you want to focus on those at least until you get the phase 2B up and running, or is there potential for expansion before that?
Yeah, good question, Adam. So our focus is to get 1189 into 2B in rheumatoid arthritis. It is to do a confirmatory, hopefully a confirmatory study in COVID-19 to expand that virus-induced inflammation platform. But I can find quite a few other opportunities as well that 1189 very much could fit into. A year ago, I said that 1189 was kind of tailor-made for ARDS in COVID-19. Yes, the results came out quite significantly, quite exciting. However, there are so many other opportunities in that space, and with the new IP opportunity, there are so many opportunities that we could get into. And of course, that would be nice with a partner. But for us, we need to develop the company on a standalone basis and do as good as we can.
Maybe just a final short question then. One of the secondary endpoints in the phase 2A study was on cytokine levels as well. You haven't shared data on that yet. I don't know how much you can say on it, but given that 1189 is a pro-resolution agent, from what you've seen, is there kind of evidence to show, based on the cytokine data, that there is a kind of pro-resolving effects?
Yeah, Adam, good question again. We haven't seen the data yet. These data are being gathered now, and also in addition to the cytokine data, we are looking at mutations in the receptor, right? And this will hopefully give some additional information about who are the responders and who are not responders within the treatment group. So we have tons of data that we're gathering, and hopefully we can in the nearest future come out and talk about these, because I believe this will be very, very exciting.
Good. Okay. More exciting stuff to come from SynAct then. Torbjörn, thank you very much for the presentation and for
Thank you, Adam.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.